Gamer bros harassed me at a tournament. They didn't know I was their reigning champ. I'd been competing under the gamertag Void Killer for 3 years. Nobody knew the faceless champion who'd won 5 major tournaments was actually a 19-year-old girl named Ashley. The second I walked into the tournament hall, a group of guys at the registration table started laughing. The tallest one, wearing a jersey with Calvin on the back, asked if I was lost because the anime convention was next door. His friend Otto asked if my boyfriend was competing and offered to show me where the girlfriend section was. When I said I was registering to compete, Calvin spit out his energy drink. She thinks she can hang with real players because she beat her little brother at Mario Kart once. Otto grabbed my registration form and read it in a high-pitched voice. Kevin said I probably used a controller with pink buttons. Calvin grabbed my wrist and forced my hand into position, explaining that real gamers used claw grip. He pressed down until my knuckles cracked. Otto dumped out my equipment, holding up my custom mouse and laughing that it was probably programmed with macros because girls always needed to cheat. When I answered their quiz questions perfectly, Otto accused me of Googling and demanded my phone. Kevin went through my photos making comments about OnlyFans. Calvin noticed my competitor badge and his face went red. He held it up and screamed that diversity quotas were destroying competitive gaming. He cornered me against the registration table and put his hand over my mouth when I tried to speak. His hand pressed so hard I tasted blood. Kevin grabbed my mouse and stepped on the cable until it sparked. Calvin leaned in and whispered, "After I'm done with you, I'm going to find every girl at this tournament and tell them exactly what happens when they try to invade male spaces." The tournament organizer called our pool to the main stage. My hands were trembling so badly I shoved them in my pockets. 3 years of dominating online, and these guys had made me feel like that scared 12-year-old who first got told she didn't belong in voice chat. I sat down at my assigned computer. The screen loaded my account. Void Killer. Calvin was 2 seats away. I watched him glance at my screen, then freeze. He looked at my face. Back, at the screen. His jaw dropped. "No way," he whispered. The commentators' voices boomed through the speakers. "And we have a special treat today, folks. 5-time champion Void Killer is competing in person for the first time ever." The crowd erupted. People were standing, trying to see who was sitting at my station. Calvin's face drained of color. Otto and Kevin were frantically whispering to each other. The first match started. Calvin versus me. He was shaking so badly he could barely click. I destroyed him in 4 minutes, the shortest match in tournament history for that bracket. The crowd went insane. Otto lasted 6 minutes. Kevin lasted 5. After each match, I stood up and looked them directly in the eyes. Said nothing. Just let them sit with it. By the finals, the story had spread through the entire hall. People had footage of Calvin's crew harassing me at registration. Someone had recorded Kevin destroying my mouse. Another person caught Calvin covering my mouth. The tournament organizers pulled all 3 aside during the semifinal break. When they came back, their faces were gray. I won the tournament. 6th championship. When I lifted the trophy, the crowd chanted "Void Killer" so loud the walls shook. The post-match interview went viral. The host asked about competing in person for the first time. I told the truth. Every detail about what Calvin and his friends had done. The footage was everywhere within hours. Gaming news sites picked it up. Then mainstream outlets. Calvin's team dropped him before the sunset. Otto lost his streaming partnership. Kevin's sponsorship deals evaporated overnight. 3 weeks later, the tournament organization announced a permanent ban on all 3. Lifetime. No appeals. Calvin tried to apologize publicly, posted a video saying he'd made mistakes and was working on himself. The comments were disabled within an hour. I got messages from hundreds of girls after that. Girls who'd quit competitive gaming because of guys like Calvin. Girls who'd never entered tournaments because they were afraid of exactly what happened to me. I started a mentorship program. Paired experienced female players with newcomers, gave them someone to sit with at LANs, someone who'd already faced the Calvins of the world and won. Last month, one of my mentees won her first regional tournament. She's 15. Her gamertag is Ashley's mouse because she uses the same model I do. After her victory, a guy in the crowd yelled that she probably cheated. She grabbed the microphone and said, "My mentor is Void Killer. You want to say that again?" The room went silent. Then the crowd started laughing. At him. That's the thing about spaces people say you don't belong in. You don't just take them. You hold them open for everyone who comes after you. Calvin streams to about 40 viewers now. Mostly bots. Sometimes I check in just to watch his numbers. Petty? Maybe. But I earned it. I opened Calvin's stream a few days later and watched the viewer count sit at 32. Half the chat is just bots spamming crypto scam links. The other half is maybe 3 actual people asking when he'll play his main game again. He can't. The bans make sure of that. I watch for 5 minutes, then close the tab. The satisfaction hits different every time I check in. My inbox won't stop filling up. Every time I clear 20 messages, 30 more appear. Girls sharing stories about guys who grabbed their controllers at LANs. Girls who got followed to their cars after tournaments. Girls who stopped competing because someone told them they only won because the other player went easy on them. I read every single message. I respond when I can. usually late at night when I should be sleeping. Each story makes me angrier about how normal everyone treated this stuff, like it was just part of gaming culture instead of harassment that should have gotten people banned years ago. Moira Osborne emails me 3 weeks after the tournament. She's one of the main organizers, the woman who actually runs registration and handles competitor issues. Her email is short and direct. She wants to know if I'd help develop an anti-harassment protocol for future events. Real policies with actual consequences, not just a code of conduct buried on page 7 of the rulebook that nobody enforces. I write back within an hour. Yes. Absolutely yes. Because words on paper mean nothing without someone who lived it helping write them. We spend 3 weeks on video calls drafting the policies. Moira pulls in 2 other organizers and a lawyer who specializes in event safety. I tell them exactly what happened at registration. The wrist grabbing, the equipment destruction, Calvin's hand over my mouth. I make them understand that harassment doesn't just happen during matches. It starts the second women walk through the door. The policies we write cover everything. Mandatory harassment training for all competitors before they can register. Immediate removal for physical intimidation. Lifetime bans for documented patterns of abuse. The policies protect competitors from registration through post-event interactions, including online harassment afterward. Moira pushes to include a reporting system where witnesses can submit evidence anonymously. The lawyer makes sure everything is enforceable and won't get the organization sued. The first tournament using the new protocols happens 2 months later. I register as both competitor and observer. Moira wants me there to see how enforcement actually works in real time. I arrive early and watch registration from across the hall. A guy in a green jersey walks up to the table where a girl is filling out her forms. He leans over her shoulder and says something about her appearance. I can't hear the exact words, but I see her shoulders tense. Security is there in under 2 minutes. 2 staff members in yellow vests pull the guy aside before he can say anything else. I watch the security team talk to him near the wall. They're calm but firm. One of them pulls out a printed sheet and points to specific sections while explaining the new policies. The guy's face goes from confused to shocked to red. They give him a formal warning that goes straight into his competitor file. 3 strikes and he's banned for life. He looks completely shocked that anyone actually cares about a comment. That tells me everything about how things used to be. How many girls heard worse and nobody did anything because it was just how tournaments were. The girl he targeted finishes her registration and walks toward the practice area. She stops when she sees me. She knows who I am. Everyone here knows who I am after the viral interview. She approaches slowly, like she's not sure if I want to be bothered. She thanks me by name. Says she almost didn't register for this tournament because she was scared of exactly what just got prevented. Her voice shakes when she talks about watching my interview and deciding to try competing in person for the first time. That conversation stays with me for days. I keep thinking about how close she came to not showing up. How many others made that choice and stayed home? I compete in the tournament and win. My 7th championship. During the post-match interview, the host asks about the new harassment policies. I dedicate the win to every girl who quit gaming because someone made them feel unwelcome. The crowd reaction is even louder than my 6th win. People are standing and chanting. Some of them are holding signs with messages supporting the new policies. The energy in the room feels different from any tournament I've competed in before. Cleo Darling contacts me a week after the tournament. She's a gaming journalist who's been covering esports for 5 years. Her email explains that she wants to interview me for a longer feature about women in competitive gaming. Not just my story, but the bigger picture of what's changing in the scene. I agree because she promises to center other voices, not just mine. Too many articles about harassment focus only on the victim story and ignore everyone else fighting the same battles. We meet for the interview at a coffee shop near the tournament venue. Cleo brings a recorder and a notebook filled with questions. She asks about the hundreds of messages I received after the viral interview. I tell her each one represented someone who'd been failed by the community. Someone who faced harassment and got told it was just part of gaming. Someone who reported abuse and watched organizers do nothing. Cleo writes everything down, then looks up and asks if I've thought about doing something more structured than individual responses. Something that could help more people at once instead of one message at a time. I spend the next few days thinking about what she said. The question keeps coming back to me while I'm practicing, while I'm reading messages, while I'm trying to sleep. One by one isn't working anymore. My inbox has over 300 unread messages now, and that number grows every single day. I can't keep up with individual responses and still compete, and still have any kind of normal life. The mentorship program idea starts taking shape in my head, but I don't know what it would actually look like. I just know something has to change, because what I'm doing now isn't enough. I email Moira and ask if we can talk about something bigger than just the harassment policies. She responds within an hour asking when I'm free. We meet at the same coffee shop where I did the interview with the journalist. Moira brings her laptop and a notebook, and looks genuinely excited when I explain the mentorship program concept. Pairing experienced female players with newcomers who need support and guidance. Giving them someone to sit with at tournaments so they don't walk into registration alone like I did. She loves it immediately and starts taking notes before I even finish explaining. She tells me the tournament organization has resources they can dedicate to this: meeting space, promotional support, maybe even some funding for equipment if mentees need it. We spend 2 hours mapping out the basic structure, and by the end of the meeting, I feel like this might actually work. The next 3 weeks are all about building the application system. Moira handles the technical side while I focus on what questions we need to ask. Mentees describe their experience level, what games they play, what kind of support they're looking for, whether they need help with strategy, with handling tournament pressure, with just having someone there who understands. Mentors specify what they can offer based on their own experience and availability. The whole point is making matches that actually mean something instead of just randomly pairing people up and hoping it works. We launch the application process, and I post about it on my social media. Within 24 hours, we have 47 mentee applications and 12 mentor applications. The mentee numbers don't surprise me, but I was worried we wouldn't get enough experienced players willing to mentor. 12 is a solid start, though. I read through every single mentee application personally. Some of them are heartbreaking. Girls who quit competing after harassment. Girls who never started because they were too scared. Girls who play online but can't imagine walking into a tournament venue alone. One application is from a 17-year-old named Heather, who describes herself as skilled enough to compete, but terrified of attending events without support. She's been playing for 4 years, has strong mechanics, knows the meta inside and out. But she's never been to a single LAN because the idea of walking in alone makes her physically sick. I accept her as one of my personal mentees immediately. We start video chatting twice a week to practice together. She's even better than her application suggested. Her game sense is incredible and her execution is clean. The only thing holding her back is fear, and I know exactly how that feels. I promise her I'll sit with her at her first tournament, and I mean it. I'm not letting her walk into that venue the way I walked into mine. The other mentors start connecting with their mentees, and Moira sets up monthly check-ins to make sure the matches are working. Most of them are going really well. A few pairs realize they're not compatible, and we rematch them with other people. The flexibility is important because forcing connections that don't work helps nobody. 2 months after we launch the program, Heather tells me she's ready to register for a tournament. It's smaller and regional, not one of the major circuits, but it's still a huge step for her. I clear my schedule to be there. Registration day arrives and I meet Heather outside the venue. She's shaking so badly she drops her equipment bag twice before we even get to the door. I pick it up for her and carry it inside. At the registration table, she can barely hold the pen to fill out her forms. Her hands are trembling and she keeps apologizing. I tell her there's nothing to apologize for and help her complete the paperwork. I stay right next to her through the entire process, making it completely clear she's not alone. Other competitors glance at us and I see recognition in some of their faces. They know who I am. Nobody says anything inappropriate. The tournament starts and Heather wins her first match, then her second, then her third. She makes it all the way to semifinals before losing to a player who's been competing for 5 years. After the match, she's practically glowing despite the loss. She tells me that just participating without anyone making her feel unwelcome is worth more than any trophy. That feeling of safety and belonging matters more than the competitive results. I understand exactly what she means. 3 months after launching the program, we have 15 active mentor-mentee pairs, and Moira suggests we create a private Discord server for everyone. The community aspect becomes just as valuable as the individual mentoring relationships. People share strategies, discuss tournaments, vent about bad experiences, celebrate victories. It's the support network I wish had existed when I started competing. I keep entering tournaments myself because staying visible matters. 4 months after everything with Calvin, I win my 8th championship. Standing on that stage holding the trophy feels different now. I'm not just winning for myself anymore. Every victory proves that speaking up didn't end my career. Every championship shows that you can call out harassment and still succeed. The weight of that responsibility sits heavy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. A new application comes in from a 14-year-old named Bridget. Her essay talks about watching my viral interview and deciding she wanted to compete despite being scared. She describes years of playing online while hiding her identity, avoiding voice chat, never revealing she was a girl. She says seeing me win after everything that happened made her believe maybe she could compete too. I accept her application before I even finish reading it. This is exactly why I started the program. Bridget reminds me so much of myself at that age, it's almost strange. The same aggressive playstyle, the same fear of being visible, the same hunger to compete mixed with terror of what might happen if she shows up in person. She's naturally talented in ways that can't be taught, but she's never played at a LAN, never sat at a tournament station, never felt the pressure of competing with people watching. We start working together, and I can see her potential immediately. She just needs someone to help her believe she belongs there. We start meeting twice a week over video calls, and I walk her through everything I know about competitive play. The first few sessions focus on mechanics and strategy, but I quickly realize she needs more than that. I teach her breathing exercises for when the pressure builds during matches. I show her how to recognize when someone is trying to get in her head and how to block it out. I explain the mental tricks I use when my hands start shaking or my heart races too fast. She practices on stream while I watch and give feedback in real time. After each session, I send her notes about what worked and what needs adjustment. The improvement happens fast, because she's naturally talented and willing to put in the work. 4 weeks in, she asks me the question I've been waiting for. She wants to know if people will treat her the way Calvin treated me. I pause the recording and think about how to answer honestly without scaring her off. I tell her some people might try, but the environment has changed since my incident. Tournament organizers actually enforce harassment policies now. Other players are more likely to speak up when they see something wrong. The community isn't perfect, but it's better than it was. I promise her I'll be there at her first tournament, sitting in the audience where she can see me. She goes quiet for a minute, then thanks me in a voice that sounds relieved. We keep practicing, and I watch her confidence grow with each session. She starts playing more aggressively and taking risks that pay off. Her reaction time improves, and her strategy gets sharper. By the time her first tournament comes around, she's ready, even if she doesn't fully believe it yet. The regional qualifier happens on a Saturday morning at a convention center 2 hours from my apartment. I drive there early and find a seat in the audience section with a clear view of the competitor stations. I'm wearing my Void Killer jersey so she can spot me easily when she looks up. The venue fills up fast, and I watch players register at the same tables where Calvin cornered me 8 months ago. Everything looks different now. Security walks the floor checking badges. Staff members wear shirts that say, "Ask me about our harassment policy," in bright letters. The atmosphere feels safer, even though I know one tournament doesn't fix everything. Bridget arrives looking nervous, and I catch her eye from across the room. She gives me a small wave, and I see her shoulders relax slightly. She registers without incident and heads to her assigned station. The first match starts, and she wins cleanly against an opponent who clearly underestimated her. The second match takes longer, but she adapts her strategy mid-game and pulls out a victory. By the third match, other people in the audience are starting to notice her aggressive playstyle. She's playing exactly like I taught her, with the same calculated risks and fast decision-making. I watch her destroy her third opponent and feel this surge of pride that catches me off guard. This is what the mentorship program was supposed to create. Her fourth match puts her against a guy who's been competing for 3 years. The match starts well, and she takes an early lead. Then I hear him muttering something I can't make out from the audience. Bridget's shoulders tense, and her gameplay hesitates for just a second. I lean forward in my seat, willing her to look up. She glances toward the audience, and our eyes meet. I nod once, and she takes a visible breath. Then she destroys him. Not just wins, but completely dominates in a way that leaves no room for doubt about her skill. The guy's face goes red, and he shoves back from his station when the match ends. Bridget stands up and walks past him without saying a word. I see her fighting back a smile as she heads to the waiting area. During the break between rounds, she finds me in the crowd. She tells me that moment when she looked up and saw me there changed everything. She says it felt like taking back power she didn't even know she'd lost. The words hit me hard because I remember that exact feeling. The tournament continues, and Bridget keeps winning. She makes it through the semifinals and into the finals against a player who's ranked in the top 50 regionally. The final match is close, and the crowd gets loud. I'm on my feet with everyone else, watching her execute strategies we practiced together. She wins the deciding round, and the announcer calls her name as the tournament champion. Bridget stands up from her station and points directly at me in the audience before accepting her trophy. I'm not ashamed to admit I cry a little. Watching her hold that trophy feels more important than any of my own championships. This is what happens when someone gets the support I never had starting out. The local gaming news covers her win that afternoon. The article mentions she's part of my mentorship program and includes quotes from her post-match interview about having support from experienced players. Within hours, my inbox fills with new applications from girls who want the same kind of mentoring. The program email gets so many messages that Moira has to help me sort through them. We spend the next week reviewing applications and realize we need to expand significantly to accommodate everyone. The demand is way bigger than either of us expected. Moira starts reaching out to other experienced female players, asking if they'd be willing to mentor. She gets responses from pros I've competed against and respected community members who want to help. Within 3 weeks, we grow from 15 mentor pairs to 40, spanning different games and skill levels. The program becomes something bigger than I ever imagined when I first started answering messages from girls who'd been harassed. I check Calvin's stream one night out of habit. His viewer count sits at 28, and half of them have bot names. He's playing a completely different game because the permanent bans keep him out of his original specialty. He can't enter any sanctioned tournaments or partner with legitimate organizations. The bans are thorough and permanent across every major gaming platform. I watch for a few minutes and notice how his commentary sounds defeated. He's not the same loud, aggressive person who cornered me at registration. The consequences broke something in him that won't come back. I close the stream, feeling that familiar satisfaction. Some people call it petty, but I earned the right to watch his career stay dead. Otto shows up on gaming forums every few weeks under different usernames, trying to participate in strategy discussions or tournament predictions. Someone always recognizes his writing style or catches him referencing details only he would know from his banned accounts. The callouts happen fast and public. Forum moderators delete his posts and ban the new accounts within hours of someone identifying him. I watch it happen on 3 different forums over 2 months, and the pattern never changes. He tries to blend in and contribute like nothing happened, but the community won't let him forget. Gaming forums keep detailed records of harassment incidents, and his name comes up in every major discussion about tournament safety. Some people screenshot his attempts to rejoin and post them with warnings about who he really is. The documented footage of him destroying my mouse gets linked every single time. Kevin disappeared completely after losing his sponsorships. His social media accounts went dark the same week the bans were announced. I heard through other competitors that he took a job doing IT support at some regular company nowhere near the gaming industry. No streams, no tournament appearances, no presence in any gaming spaces online or in person. A few people who knew him before said he tried explaining what happened as a misunderstanding, but the video evidence made that impossible. The footage shows exactly what he did, and there's no way to spin it differently. His career ended, and he had to start over in a completely different field. Some consequences stick forever and close doors that never open again. Meanwhile, Heather wins her first major tournament 8 months after joining the mentorship program. I'm watching the stream when it happens, and the victory feels almost as good as my own championships. She beats a player who's been competing professionally for 3 years, and the final match isn't even close. Heather executes everything we practiced together with perfect timing and confidence. The post-match interview shows her talking about the mentorship program and crediting the support system for helping her compete without fear. 2 other mentees place in the top 10 at different regional events that same month. Another girl from the program makes semifinals at a qualifier tournament and gets noticed by a professional team's scouts. The success stories start piling up faster than I can track them all. Every victory proves the program works and creates space for more girls to compete. Moira sends me updates about new applications coming in after each mentee wins something. The momentum builds on itself as more people see that female competitors can succeed when they have proper support. Lynette contacts me through email asking if I'd be interested in speaking on a panel at a major gaming convention about building inclusive competitive spaces. She works in esports event management and saw the coverage of my story, plus the mentorship program growth. The convention is one of the biggest annual gaming events with tens of thousands of attendees and streaming coverage that reaches millions. She wants me to share my experience and talk about practical changes that actually work beyond just posting statements on social media. Requested Reads is on Spotify now. Check out link in the description or comments. I agree immediately because visibility matters more than comfort. The more people who hear directly from someone who faced harassment and fought back, the harder it becomes to pretend the problem doesn't exist. I've never done public speaking like this before, but the opportunity to reach that many people at once is too important to pass up. The panel happens 3 months later in a massive convention hall with every seat filled and people standing along the back wall. I share the stage with 4 other female pros and 2 advocates who work on harassment prevention in gaming spaces. The moderator asks each of us to talk about our experiences and what actual change looks like instead of empty corporate promises. I tell my story starting with Calvin at registration and ending with the mentorship program's current success. I don't soften any details about the harassment or how the gaming community initially failed to protect competitors. The audience stays completely silent while I talk, and I can see people in the front rows taking notes. When I finish describing how the permanent bans and new protocols made a measurable difference, the applause is loud enough that the moderator has to wait. The other panelists share similar stories about harassment and the institutional failures that enabled it for years. We talk honestly about how most gaming organizations only started caring after viral incidents forced their hand. The discussion covers everything from registration safety to social media harassment to the casual sexism that still exists in gaming culture. Nobody holds back or tries to make it comfortable for people who don't want to hear it. During the question and answer section, a girl who looks maybe 12 or 13 raises her hand and asks how to deal with being scared to compete in person. Her voice shakes when she talks about wanting to enter tournaments, but being terrified of getting treated the way I was. I lean forward to the microphone and tell her about the mentorship program. I explain how it works and give her the application website so she can find someone to support her at events. I mention that being scared is completely normal and doesn't mean she shouldn't compete. The fear comes from knowing the risks are real, but having support makes those risks manageable. Other people in the audience pull out their phones to write down the website, and at least 6 more people ask for the information again during the remaining question time. After the panel ends, I get surrounded by attendees wanting to talk more about the program or share their own harassment stories. I stand there for over an hour answering questions and listening to people describe experiences almost identical to mine. Every conversation reinforces why this work matters beyond my own vindication. That convention appearance leads to 3 more speaking invitations within 2 weeks. Other gaming events want me on panels or doing solo presentations about harassment prevention and mentorship programs. I realize I'm becoming a spokesperson for something much bigger than my personal story. The role is exhausting because it means constantly reliving the worst experience of my competitive career in front of audiences. Every panel requires me to describe Calvin's hand over my mouth, and the blood I tasted, and the fear I felt walking to that first match. But the impact makes the exhaustion worthwhile. After each speaking event, the mentorship program gets dozens of new applications, and other experienced players reach out, offering to become mentors. The visibility creates real growth and reaches people who never would have found the program otherwise. I'm tired, but I keep accepting invitations because turning them down means missing opportunities to create change. I compete in my 9th championship tournament 6 months after starting the mentorship program and win against a field of over 200 competitors. The victory feels different from my earlier championships because now it means something beyond personal achievement. When I lift the trophy, the crowd chants "Void Killer," like always. But this time, I'm thinking about Heather and Bridget, and all the other mentees who are watching. During the post-match interview, the host asks about balancing competitive gaming with running the mentorship program. I tell him the mentees remind me why winning matters in the first place. Every championship I take proves that speaking up about harassment didn't end my career the way Calvin threatened it would. Every trophy shows younger players that they can compete and succeed and demand better treatment without sacrificing their place in gaming. The mentees have given me purpose beyond just being the best player. They've turned my competitive drive into something that helps other people, instead of just feeding my own ego. Bridget messages me 2 weeks later asking if I'll be at a major tournament coming up in 3 months. It's the same circuit where I won my first championship 4 years ago. She's applying to compete, and wants to know if I'll be there to support her. I write back immediately that I wouldn't miss it for anything. This tournament matters more than most because it's her first major event, the kind with serious competition and professional scouts watching. Regional tournaments are important, but major circuit events are where careers get launched. I've been working with Bridget for almost a year now, and watching her confidence grow from terrified newcomer to someone ready to compete at the highest levels. She's prepared for this and deserves the opportunity to prove herself on a big stage. The tournament venue is massive with hundreds of competitors registered and streaming coverage that will reach millions of viewers across multiple platforms. The main competition hall has stadium seating for spectators and professional broadcasting equipment everywhere. Bridget is nervous when we meet up before registration, but she's also prepared. We spent the last month practicing specifically for this tournament's format and competition level. I walk with her through registration to make sure nobody gives her problems and stay nearby while she sets up her equipment at the practice stations. I can see her hands shaking slightly, but she's holding it together. Before her first match, I remind her that she belongs here just as much as anyone else competing. She earned her spot through skill, and nobody can take that away from her. I tell her I'll be in the audience watching every match and that she should look for me whenever she needs to remember she's not alone. She nods and takes a deep breath before heading to her assigned station. I find my seat in the spectator section where she can easily spot me and settle in to watch her compete at the highest level she's ever faced. Her first match starts against someone ranked way below her skill level, but she plays clean and focused anyway. I watch from my seat as she takes control early and closes it out without any showboating. The second match is tougher, but she adapts to her opponent's style and wins in straight rounds. Between matches, she glances up at me in the audience, and I give her a small nod. The third match puts her against a player I recognize from other tournaments, and she handles the pressure without falling apart. Nobody makes comments about her gender or questions whether she belongs there. The other competitors treat her like any other skilled player trying to advance through brackets. I notice guys at nearby stations watching her matches with genuine interest in her gameplay instead of looking for reasons to dismiss her. The tournament staff interacts with her normally during equipment checks and match coordination. This is what I wanted when I started the mentorship program: competitors judging each other purely on skill instead of assuming girls don't belong. The culture shift isn't complete everywhere, but it's happening in spaces like this where consequences for harassment are real and enforced. Bridget makes it to semifinals, which blows my mind because this is her first major tournament and she's already placing higher than players who've been competing for years. Her semifinal opponent has 5 years on the circuit and multiple top 10 finishes at events like this. I can see the experience gap in how he controls the pace and reads her patterns. She puts up a real fight and takes one round off him, but he closes it out in the end. When the match ends, she sits there for a second, looking disappointed, but then she stands up and shakes his hand properly. I meet her outside the competition area after she collects her equipment. She tells me she wished she'd played better in those last 2 rounds. I remind her that making semifinals at her first major is incredible, and most competitors would kill for that placement. She nods, but I can tell she's already analyzing what she could have done differently. That competitive drive is exactly what will make her even better next time. The tournament organizers pull her for a quick post-match interview because her run through brackets got attention from the streaming audience. She sits down in front of the camera looking nervous at first, but then settles in when they start asking questions. The interviewer asks how she prepared for her first major, and she talks about the mentorship program, and how having experienced players to practice with changed everything. She mentions specific things I taught her about staying calm under pressure and not letting intimidation tactics throw off her game. The interviewer asks if she faced any harassment during the tournament, and she says everyone treated her with respect and judged her purely on her gameplay. She credits the new tournament policies and the cultural shift happening in competitive gaming. The interview runs about 8 minutes, and she comes across as genuine and thoughtful instead of giving standard, boring answers. The clips start spreading across gaming social media within hours. People share her comments about the mentorship program and tag our official accounts. The response is overwhelmingly positive, with players asking how to apply and experienced competitors offering to volunteer as mentors. Applications to the mentorship program absolutely explode after Bridget's interview goes viral. We get triple our normal monthly applications in just 3 days. I'm trying to process them all, but there's no way we can match everyone with the current number of mentors we have. Moira contacts me saying we need to create a waitlist because we're completely overwhelmed. She starts reaching out to every experienced female player she knows, asking them to consider joining as mentors. Some say yes immediately after seeing Bridget's interview. Others need more information about time commitment and what mentoring actually involves. We put together better documentation about expectations and training resources for new mentors. Moira sets up group video calls where current mentors can talk to potential new ones about their experiences. The recruiting push is intense, but necessary because we can't leave hundreds of applicants hanging without support. I'm competing in the same major tournament as Bridget, and my matches are scheduled for the next day. Walking into the venue feels different now compared to my first in-person tournament 3 years ago. Nobody questions whether I belong here or makes comments about my gender. Other competitors nod at me or say quick hellos between matches. Some newer players look nervous around me, but that's about my skill level, not about being female. I move through my early brackets without much trouble. The competition gets harder in later rounds, but I've been doing this long enough that I know how to adjust. My semifinal match goes the distance, and I barely pull it out. The finals opponent is someone I've faced online before, and we both know each other's tendencies. The match is close, but I take it in the end. 10th championship. When they hand me the trophy, I feel this weird mix of pride and disbelief. I started competing anonymously at 16 because I was scared of exactly what happened at that first in-person tournament. Never imagined I'd make it to double-digit championships. The victory is sweet and satisfying, but honestly, the mentorship work feels more meaningful now. Winning proves I'm the best player, but helping others compete safely proves the community can actually change. During my championship interview, the host brings up the mentorship program and how much it's grown since I started it. I use the platform to emphasize that we desperately need more experienced players to step up as mentors. The demand is massive, and we can't meet it with our current volunteer base. I explain that mentoring doesn't require being a champion-level player, just someone with tournament experience who can guide newcomers through the process. The host asks what kind of time commitment it involves, and I break down the typical schedule of video practice sessions and attending events together. I make it clear that we provide training and resources for new mentors, so they're not figuring it out alone. The interview reaches a huge audience because championship matches get the most viewership. That same night, 3 professional players contact me directly offering to join as mentors. They all mention seeing the interview and wanting to contribute to the cultural shift. One of them has been competing for 7 years and says she wished something like this existed when she started. Another is recently retired from competition, but still heavily involved in the scene. The third is currently active on a professional team and wants to mentor during her off-season. Having pros volunteer brings serious credibility to the program and will attract even more experienced players. The program expands rapidly over the next few months to 70 mentor-mentee pairs across 8 different competitive games. We're not just focused on my game anymore, but supporting female players across the entire gaming scene. Moira helps establish regional chapters so people can meet in person instead of only connecting online. The chapters organize local practice sessions and group attendance at smaller tournaments. This gives mentees the chance to compete with built-in support systems instead of showing up alone and scared. The organizational structure is becoming real and legitimate, instead of just me answering messages and setting up video calls. We have coordinators for different regions and game categories. We create better tracking systems for mentor-mentee matches and progress reports. The whole thing is turning into an actual organization with reach and impact beyond what I imagined when I first started responding to those hundreds of messages. Heather gets signed to a professional team, which is massive news because they're one of the biggest organizations in competitive gaming. She becomes one of their first female players in the team's entire history. Her signing announcement specifically credits the mentorship program for helping her develop the skills and confidence to compete at the professional level. The announcement gets picked up by major gaming news sites and brings another wave of attention to what we're doing. Applications surge again, and we have to expand our waitlist. The professional team's social media posts about Heather joining get huge engagement with mostly positive responses. Sure, there are still some idiots in the comments making stupid jokes, but they get drowned out by genuine excitement. Other professional teams start paying attention and reaching out asking about our mentorship model. Some want to partner with us to develop their own female player pipelines. The whole ecosystem is shifting in ways that felt impossible 3 years ago. 2 other major tournament organizations invite me to consult on their harassment policies. They want to implement the same standards we established after my incident with Calvin. I bring the same uncompromising approach to their policy development. No more looking the other way when competitors harass each other. No more treating abuse as normal trash talk that's just part of gaming culture. Mandatory reporting systems for harassment complaints. immediate investigation procedures with clear timelines, graduated consequences starting with warnings and escalating to permanent bans for serious violations. Both organizations adopt policies that are even stricter than what I initially proposed. They recognize that half measures don't work, and competitors need to know that harassment has real consequences. The policies go into effect at their next major events, and competitors are required to acknowledge them during registration. Some players complain about political correctness ruining gaming, but they're the exact people these policies are designed to weed out. 10 months after her first major tournament, Bridget competes in another one. I'm in the audience again watching her walk through registration with complete confidence. She's not the nervous kid who needed me to fill out her forms anymore. She moves through early brackets smoothly and efficiently. Her gameplay has evolved significantly since that first tournament. She's incorporated advanced techniques we practiced and developed her own style. The competition gets tougher in later rounds, but she handles the pressure like someone who's been doing this for years instead of months. I watch her adapt to different opponent strategies and make smart adjustments between rounds. She makes it all the way to the finals. The finals opponent is tough and experienced, but Bridget plays with the confidence of someone who knows she belongs on that stage. I'm sitting in the audience watching her compete at the highest level with zero fear or hesitation. This is exactly what I wanted to create through the mentorship program. Not just helping girls win tournaments, but helping them compete with the absolute certainty that they deserve to be there. The finals match goes to 5 games. Bridget plays with everything I taught her and everything she figured out on her own. Her opponent is 23 and has been competing professionally for 4 years. The crowd is split between them, chanting and cheering after every big play. Bridget takes the first game, loses the second and third, wins the fourth to force the deciding match. I'm gripping the armrests of my seat so hard my fingers hurt. The final game comes down to one crucial moment. Bridget has the advantage but makes a risky play that doesn't work out. Her opponent capitalizes immediately and closes out the match. Second place. The crowd gives both players a standing ovation. Bridget stands up from her station and shakes her opponent's hand, then turns to look at me in the audience. She's smiling even though she lost. The post-match interview happens right there on stage. The host congratulates Bridget on an incredible run and asks how it feels to place second at 15 years old. She talks about the competition being tough and her opponent playing better today. The coverage afterward focuses entirely on her skill and potential. Gaming news sites run headlines about the youngest finalist in tournament history. Nobody mentions her gender as a qualifier or excuse. The articles analyze her gameplay, her strategies, her future in competitive gaming. It feels like actual progress when skill gets recognized as skill instead of being filtered through whether someone is a girl or guy. After the awards ceremony, people are filing out of the venue. Bridget is talking to some other competitors near the stage. I'm heading toward her when some guy in the crowd yells out that she probably cheated. His voice carries across the whole space. Everyone nearby stops and turns to look. Bridget doesn't hesitate for even a second. She walks straight to where the microphone is still set up on stage, picks it up, and her voice comes through the speakers. She asks if he wants to say that again, then adds that her mentor is Void Killer. The room goes completely silent. You could hear someone breathing from across the venue. The guy who yelled is standing there frozen. Then someone in the crowd starts laughing. Another person joins in. Within seconds, the entire room is laughing at him, not with him. He tries to say something, but nobody can hear it over the noise. He pushes through the crowd and leaves through the side exit. I watch him go and feel this deep satisfaction that has nothing to do with my own vindication. The community just defended Bridget without me having to do anything. Other competitors are patting her on the back and congratulating her. Tournament staff are smiling. The whole atmosphere shifted in her favor because she stood up for herself and people backed her up instead of attacking her. That moment changes something for me. I've been thinking about this work as holding space open for other girls to compete safely, making sure they don't face what I faced. But watching Bridget grab that microphone and challenge someone who tried to diminish her achievement, I realize she's not just occupying space I'm holding open. She's claiming it as her own. She's making it hers. The next generation isn't just benefiting from the battles I fought. They're fighting their own battles with confidence because they know they have support. They're not scared and alone the way I was. That's what actually matters. Not that I cleared the path, but that they're walking it without fear. 3 weeks later, the mentorship program hits its 1-year anniversary. Moira sends me the statistics. 85 active mentor-mentee pairs across 9 different competitive games. 15 success stories of mentees winning tournaments or joining professional teams. 3 mentees have gotten sponsorship deals. 7 are streaming regularly with growing audiences. The Discord server has over 200 members now, including mentors, mentees, and alumni who stay involved to help newcomers. We're making measurable impact that shows up in actual results. Girls are competing, winning, building careers in gaming. The numbers prove the program works beyond just good intentions. Moira calls me the next day and says the tournament organization wants to talk about expansion. They've been contacted by gaming organizations in 6 other countries, asking about our model. Everyone wants to know how we structured the program, how we match mentors with mentees, how we handle issues that come up. The organization is proposing partnerships to replicate what we built internationally. Moira asks if I'm interested in being involved with the expansion. The idea of going global is overwhelming. I built this program for the girls who messaged me after my story went viral. I never imagined it would spread beyond North America. But if it can help more people, if it can create the same kind of support network in other countries, then obviously I want to be part of that. I tell Moira yes before I can overthink it. 2 months later, I compete in another major championship. I win my 11th title. During the post-match interview, the host asks about my future plans. I announce that I'm stepping back from competing full-time to focus on leading the mentorship program. I'll still compete occasionally, but my priority is the work that creates lasting change instead of just adding more trophies to my collection. The decision feels right. I've proven everything I needed to prove as a competitor. Now it's time to put that energy into building something bigger than my own career. The crowd applauds when I explain what the program does and how it's expanding. Several people come up to me afterward asking how they can get involved as mentors. 3 months after that, Bridget competes in another major championship. I'm not competing this time, so I sit in the audience and watch her dominate every match. She's incorporated new techniques we practiced and developed her own style that's different from mine. Her gameplay is aggressive but calculated. She takes risks but always has backup plans. She makes it through bracket after bracket until she's in the finals again. This time she wins. Youngest champion in that tournament's entire history. When they announce her victory, she points at me in the audience before accepting the trophy. Her gamertag is still Ashley's mouse, the tribute to our mentoring relationship and the equipment Calvin destroyed years ago. The commentators mention the story during the broadcast, how she's part of the mentorship program, how having support from experienced players changed everything for her. Bridget's victory speech happens right there on stage with thousands of people watching in person and hundreds of thousands streaming online. She talks about how having a mentor who understood the specific challenges made all the difference. She encourages other experienced players to join the mentorship program because that support matters more than anyone realizes. The message spreads across gaming social media within hours. Clips of her speech get shared everywhere. Applications to become mentors triple overnight. People who never considered mentoring are reaching out asking how they can help. The impact goes way beyond just Bridget's individual achievement. I watch her lift that trophy and see the same fierce joy I felt at my first championship. But there's something different about her victory compared to mine. I had to fight alone. I had to prove myself to a community that didn't want me there. I had to face harassment and intimidation with nobody backing me up until after I'd already won. Bridget didn't have to do any of that. She competed knowing she had support. She faced that heckler knowing the community would defend her. She built her career knowing there were people who wanted her to succeed. That's the whole point of everything I've been working toward. Not that I survived the harassment and won anyway, but that the next generation doesn't have to survive it at all because we changed the environment they're competing in. That's what victory actually looks like. 2 months after Bridget's championship, the mentorship program hits 100 mentor-mentee pairs. Moira calls me on a Tuesday afternoon with the numbers and asks if I'm ready to make this official. We spend 3 weeks filing paperwork to establish a formal nonprofit organization. Moira becomes executive director because she has the organizational skills, and I have the public profile. We divide responsibilities based on what each of us does best. The nonprofit status means we can accept donations and grants to cover travel costs for mentees attending their first tournaments. We can pay for equipment for girls who can't afford decent setups. We can offer scholarships for tournament entry fees. This thing I started by answering messages in my inbox has turned into something sustainable and bigger than any one person. The structure means it'll keep going even if I step back someday. I still compete occasionally because walking away completely would feel like letting the Calvins win in a different way. 14 months after the original incident, I win my 12th championship at a major tournament in Seattle. The victory feels less important than the message it sends every single time I step on stage. Speaking up about harassment didn't end my career. I'm still here. I'm still winning. Every trophy proves that telling the truth doesn't make you weak or ruin your future. The gaming media covers my 12th win, but spends more time talking about the nonprofit and how many girls are competing now who wouldn't have before. That shift in focus is exactly what I wanted. Calvin's stream is down to 40 viewers now when I check it late one night. Most of the chat is bots spamming crypto scams and fake giveaway links. He's playing a different game because he can't compete in his original specialty anymore with the lifetime bans. His viewer count used to be in the thousands back when he had sponsorships and a team. Now it's just him in a dark room talking to almost nobody. Some people tell me it's petty to check his numbers. Maybe it is. But I earned the right to feel satisfied watching consequences play out. Justice doesn't always happen in situations like mine. When it does, I'm allowed to notice. The thing about spaces people say you don't belong in is that you don't just take them for yourself. You hold them open for everyone who comes after you. I watch the next generation compete without the fear I had at their age. They walk into tournament halls knowing there are policies protecting them, and mentors supporting them, and a community that will defend them if someone tries what Calvin tried. Bridget lifts trophies without anyone questioning if she cheated. Heather joins professional teams without anyone asking if she's just there for diversity. New girls register for their first tournaments without shaking hands or tasting blood. That's the best victory I could have asked for. Not revenge, not personal glory, just watching the doors stay open and seeing who walks through them. All right, that's all I've got today. Thanks for letting me share this little moment with you. I hope it sits with you in a good way.